All right, so let's talk about just the idea of terms, variable term, a constant term, and the idea of a coefficient, right? So we've worked with some expressions so far. An expression with a variable might look something like 7m plus 2 minus 3n. Okay, so in an expression you have different terms. Okay, terms are the things that are being added or subtracted together. They're the things between the addition and the subtraction signs. Okay, so in our particular case here, we have three different terms. Okay, we've got a term 7n. Okay, we've got a term 2, and we've got a term, oops, there we go, minus 3n. Okay, and again, we talked a little bit, especially a distributive property, that minus sign, right? We know acts like a negative, so we got to make sure when we're talking about terms, we're picking up that minus sign in front. Okay, so three terms there. 7n's a term, positive 2's a term, and negative 3m is a term. Now we have different types of terms. We have what's called a constant term. Okay, and you think about like the word constant, like if you're constantly doing something, you do the same thing over and over and over, right? So a constant term is a term that just has the same value. Okay, it doesn't change. All right, so in our example here, the 2, okay, is an example of a constant term. Okay, 2 always has a value of 2. It doesn't change, right? It's just 2. Okay, and again, we've talked about this term a little bit, but variable. Okay, so a variable term is going to have different values. All right, so as we look up here, like 7n, for example, could have a different value depending on what n is, right? If n is 2, the value of that term is 14. 7 times 2 is 14, right? If n is 0, the value of that term is 0, right? So that's a variable term, right? It varies, it changes. Okay, same thing's true here. This is a variable term. Again, depending on what n is, the value of that term there could be different. Okay, so we have constants and we have variable terms. Okay, now with a variable term, let me rewrite this here, 7n, right? We have our variable, okay, and then the number we're multiplying the variable by, the number in front here, has a term. That term is coefficient. Sounds like a super fancy word there, but it just means that number that the variable is being multiplied by. Okay, that's the coefficient. You'll hear that term used a lot when dealing with algebra stuff. Okay, so we've got terms, two types of terms: constants, which are just the numbers, they don't have any variables, they have the same value, or we have variable terms, which the value of that term changes depending on what the variable is. Okay, so when we start talking about like terms, okay, like terms are things we can combine together. Okay, so one like term we can always combine together are constants. All right, so anything that's a constant can go together. Okay, the other type of like term we'll be dealing with is they have to have the same variable with, including the same exponent. Okay, so let me give you an example here. Okay, so let's say, for example, I had x squared plus 3 plus 2x minus 4x, or let's do plus 4x squared plus 5. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different terms there. Okay, now if we want to think about what can I combine together, okay, let's follow our rules here. Okay, so first rule is any constants can be combined together. So as I look at my thing, where are my constants? Well, I've got a 3 and I've got a 5. So those can be combined together. Okay, second one, same variable and same exponent. All right, so as I look at that, Okay, I got an x squared. Well, do I have any other x's with a squared on it or to the second power? Okay, well, let's see, that's a 2x, right? Can't combine those because it doesn't have the same exponent. The next term, however, does, 4x squared, right? So those two we can combine together, and then 2x can't really combine with anything. Okay, in this case, it's just a single term, right? It doesn't have any like terms that we can combine. So when you're trying to combine like terms and trying to simplify a variable expression, that's kind of the first thing you have to do is go through and identify which terms you can put together. Again, constants can be put together, anything without a variable on it. And then if you're dealing with variables, it has to be the same variable, and that variable has to have the same exponent. If it's an x squared, it can only go with x squareds. If it's a x to the 5th power, it can only go with x to the 5th power, and x can only go with an x, and so on. Okay, so let's look at a couple more examples here. Okay, so let's say I had 2n minus 3 plus 4n plus 7. So I wanted to combine like terms. Again, step 1, identify those like terms, right? I see a 2n and I see a plus 4n. So I can combine those together. 2n and 4n make 6n. Okay, and then I see my constants. I have a minus 3, and again, we've got to pick that sign up, right? Minus 3, negative 3, same thing, plus 7. Well, negative 3 plus 7 is positive 4. So when we put those together, okay, it's not 10n. We can't combine those together. Those are not like terms. Okay, we just simply, since 4 is positive, we put a plus there. Okay, so 6n plus 4 would be the simplified expression. Okay, again, simplifying just means combine like terms, shorten it as much as possible. You're not always going to be able to get it down to a single term, right? We're just trying to make it simpler. Okay, one common thing, and again, this is because, you know, through elementary you learn a single answer for everything. Here we're just simplifying. We're making it shorter. Sometimes we can't make it as short as a single term, so we just leave it like that. Okay, let's look at another example here. Okay, let's say we had 6a squared plus 3b minus 5a plus 4b minus 2. Okay, again, we want to go through and identify like terms, right? So I see I have an a squared as my first term. Do I have any other a squareds? I don't. So I can't do anything with that. I'm going to leave it there. My second term is a b. Okay, so 3b, do I have any other just b's? Well, yep, right here, 4b. Right, so 3b and 4b I can put together. They're both positive, so 3b plus 4b is 7b. Okay. Now, one thing you might want to do, and I find helpful when I'm doing these, if I have a whole bunch of terms and I want to keep track of them, I like to just cross them off. So I've used that one, I've used that one, I've used that one. Okay. And then I look at my last terms. Okay, I've got a minus 5a. Well, that doesn't combine with negative 2. So I'm just going to rewrite that. Rewrite my minus 2, and then I'm done. Okay, so this one, you know, we went from 5 terms to 4 terms. Okay, that's all we can do on this one. Again, we're just trying to shorten it as much as possible. We're not going to always get down to a single term. We're just going to leave it like that. Okay. All right. One thing that you'll notice, nowhere in here did I put an equal sign. Okay, I know it's probably not a huge deal, but again, it's just a habit thing, right? We have expressions. We don't have equations, right? You don't need to put this equal to that or anything like that. Best way to do is just kind of work vertically, right? And again, you'll kind of have that funneling effect as you combine like terms. It'll shrink down to a smaller part. So don't put any equal signs in anywhere. You're just combining those like terms, shrinking them down. Okay, so let's give you a couple to try here. So again, I'll give you them, right? Pause it, try them, play the video again, we'll go over the answers. So let's see the first one, 6n plus 4 minus 8n plus 5. Okay, and the second one, let's go 3x squared plus 2x plus 5x squared minus 3. Okay, so pause the video, give those a try. When you're ready to check them, just hit play again. All right, so the first one, when we look at what can we combine together, I've got a 6n and I've got a minus 8n. Again, pick up that sign in front of the 8. It's not a plus 8n, it's a minus 8n. Okay, so 6n minus 8n is negative 2n. Okay, and then I've got a 4. Get a different highlighter here. I've got a 4 and a 5. I've got those two constants, so together those make 9. Okay, I can't combine those. Those are not like terms, so I have to leave it like that, negative 2n plus 9. Okay, the second one, as I look at that, let's see, I've got 3x squared. Do I have any other x squareds? Yes, I do, right there, plus 5x squared. So that gives me, if I put those together, that gives me 8x squared. If I look at my second term there, I've got at 2x. Okay, do I have any other just x's? No, I don't. So that I'm going to leave as just plus 2x. And again, I've got that constant at the end, minus 3. Can't combine that with anything. Okay, so that's our simplified expression, 8x squared plus 2x minus 3. Okay, again, can't combine those together. We're just trying to simplify it as much as possible, shorten it as much as possible. That's as short as we can get it.